Hello, my name is Alyssa Hiener, and I am the director and producer of Behind the Curtain, The Anxiety of Music Performance, a documentary about music performance anxiety. I am an oboe performance major at the Hart School of the University of Hartford, and I am graduating May 2025. As a musician, I am no stranger to the anxiety that accumulates when one performs. During the fall semester of 2024, I encountered an experience where anxiety diminished my ability to play and caused me to rethink my entire career path. However, after speaking with many faculty and friends, I found I was not alone in experiencing this anxiety, and I wanted to create a platform where people could talk about their own experiences and share that no musician is alone when experiencing performance anxiety. I hope you enjoy Behind the Curtain, the anxiety of music performance.
I am Serena Bratton, and I am a first-year master's student in oboe performance.
My name is Lindsay Wern, and I'm a junior here at Hart, and my major is flute performance and music education.
My name is Megan Jones. I'm graduating in 2026, and I'm a violin performance major.
My name is Daryl. I'm a graduate student second year, and I'll be graduating this coming May. And my major is vocal performance.
Okay, so Holly Dion, first year master's student, trumpet performance.
Ever since the first time I performed, yes. Yeah. Even like now, still, there isn't a performance that I am not in some way nervous for. Yeah.
I think that I do, to an extent. I know other people have it more severe, but I think everyone experiences some form of performance anxiety.
I would say yes, mostly, but also no sometimes. I feel like I'm more comfortable around people who don't really know how to play violin, so usually audience aren't that bad. Unless they're a really big audience, that's overwhelming. But when I'm in front of my peers or like family members, I'm like, that's a lot of, pressure, and yeah, I think I often feel it the most. Or maybe my teachers. I feel it the most with my teachers too.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, I definitely experienced performance anxiety. I think I always have, even when I was doing music as a little kid. But I've definitely learned to deal with it over the years, but definitely have.
I get cold, clammy hands, dry mouth. I tend to shake, not too bad though. Physical, what else? Bathroom. That's a big one. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, no, I think that I end up telling myself that I can't do it. And so it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy a lot of the time.
My physical symptoms, my hands get really sweaty. This doesn't happen so much anymore, but my legs used to get really shaky, but the more I perform, the more that I kind of breathe through that, and it doesn't really happen to me anymore. Let's see, other physical symptoms. Yeah, sometimes my breathing gets kind of shaky because my heart rate is going so fast, but again, not so much anymore. Now that I'm a junior, I've kind of figured out ways to cope with it.
For me, I feel like sometimes I forget bowings. Sometimes I don't necessarily have memory slips. It's more like I stop, I forget what happens next, which I guess is kind of a memory slip, but full on stopping, but kind of going at the same time. I'll play, I'll remember that there's this note there, but then I'm like, oh, what happens next? I make it up, and then I keep going, but in my head it's blank. And I don't know, sometimes I shake a little bit, but other than that, that's what I think. I'm probably like, oh my gosh, that was horrible. And then I don't know what I did in measure 47. Like, you know, I just start rethinking the whole entire thing.
Sometimes when I'm standing, if I'm singing an aria or an art song, as like vocalists, we're a little bit different because we got to kind of tell a story, a specific story. And sometimes we got to tell it in a specific way. But sometimes if I'm anxious while I'm performing, I kind of lose the storytelling process. I freeze up. Sometimes I stop moving. I just focus on singing and not performing. So that's typically what happens.
I often usually am experiencing like shaking, difficulty breathing, and usually my heart rate goes up, so usually that type of thing, dry mouth, all the lovely things to be dealing with as a trumpet player. The vibrato sounds great. Definitely get in my head and the voices don't stop, that's for sure, but it's more physical than anything for me, but definitely there's some emotional.
Along with conducting in-person interviews, I posted an anonymous survey for music students at the Hart School. These are some of their responses. This pie chart shows the physical symptoms of performance anxiety reported by anonymous survey participants. The most common symptom reported was rapid heart rate, followed by muscle tension and sweaty or shaky hands. Other reported symptoms were nauseousness, shallow breathing, dry mouth, loss of appetite, shaking knees, vomiting, shortness of breath, and tunnel vision. No participants reported excessive eating as a symptom of their performance anxiety. This pie chart shows the cognitive symptoms reported, with the most common response being negative self-talk, followed by intensified feelings of fear and difficulty focusing. Other reported symptoms were post-performance distress, absolutist thinking, heightened alert and concentration, and memory slips. 2% of participants noted symptoms not mentioned in the survey, stating, "I often don't feel anxiety until the moment I walk on stage," making it difficult to mentally prepare before a performance. With a culmination of physical and cognitive symptoms, performance anxiety can make musicians feel that it is impossible to perform. However, there are some strategies that have been helpful for musicians to overcome those performance anxiety symptoms.
If it's a solo recital, then I try and make sure that I'm running my program a couple weeks before every day. And I know like a lot of people don't talk about it, but I do use beta blockers. It's become less over the years, but if I'm doing a solo recital, chances are I'm probably going to be using them. So yeah, I know a lot of people have a lot of negative things to say about that, but it has helped me. I've eliminated some of the physical symptoms. So if I can play my music with, under a low stress environment, hopefully now that I've eliminated some of the physical stuff, I can do it. But yeah, in the past, they really have made me feel more chill. I know a lot of people are kind of like, if you take beta blockers, you're gonna sound like a robot. That's not true. Yeah, I've never sounded like a robot when I've taken them, at least not to myself. Yeah, I don't think that they're a bad thing, as long as you can survive without them.
Most of it is just taking really deep breaths, letting it out slowly. That kind of resets my brain, but that's kind of how I deal with that. I definitely am a big advocate for breathing. It's like a built-in reset button. Someone told me about it my freshman year, and I just been using that ever since. Also, if I have a big performance coming up, I will make sure to play in front of a lot of different people, like my friends, family. I'll get together a group of people and ask if they'll listen to me. That definitely helps to take some of the nerves away, getting used to playing under pressure so I know I can do it. Also, I have these stress gummies that I use, these Ollie stress gummies. They have a certain ingredient that kind of helps you chill out a little bit. I don't really rely on those. I don't really use those very much, but like I've used them like 1 or 2 times, and I know some people like those are recommended to me by another musician here. So
it's a mixture of performing more and breathing more. I learned how to breathe more while playing and just like take a breath before even starting and take a breath after, just like being conscious of my breathing more, and then just putting myself out there, you know, like never really saying no to any performance, because the more you perform, the more you get used to it. Which, I mean, you'll never fully be used to it, but, you know, it's better than nothing.
For me personally, I find it to be really productive to make sure that I'm prepared before I go and sing. Me personally, the type of performer I am, I'm confident in my instrument and me using my instrument, you know, in a successful way, I guess you could say. But my lack of confidence often comes from my stage presence and, you know, how I deliver the music. So usually I try to be prepared in terms of knowing the words. Sometimes, you know, as vocalists, we sing in several languages, so like knowing the words, knowing the translations, knowing what story I want to tell and how I want to tell it. And sometimes it helps me to think about different ways to tell the story, because sometimes you could have like a play-by-play on how you want to do something, but the moment it's time to do it, it like all spirals out of control. So just having different ideas in my head also helped me build confidence on what I can do and how I can do it on stage, just in case something goes wrong. So generally, to help reduce my anxiety, to help manage my negative side effects, I try to be as prepared as possible before I perform.
I've tried a lot dealing with the physical aspect. There was one thing that my teacher in my undergrad taught me. It was 4-7-8 breath. It'd be in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. And it usually helps to regulate your breathing and kind of remind yourself that you're not like being chased by a bear or something. So it's just like, oh, kind of relax a little bit. I also try to, especially if it's before a performance or a solo performance, I try to listen to some music. Like it kind of gets me in the zone. Whether I need something that's more like hyped up so I can get a little more excited, or something that's a little calmer to kind of relax my heartbeat and stuff like that. But it's mainly the stuff I do.
The bar graph shown here illustrates some of the strategies and techniques survey participants have tried, and which they have found most helpful. These strategies and techniques are not guaranteed to help everyone with performance anxiety, so it is important to try different techniques to find which work for you. The most effective technique recorded was beta blockers, followed by deep breathing exercises and mock performance practices. Meditation and shaking out the muscles were found to be the least effective. However, each of these strategies and techniques have been found effective by some of those who have tried them, so it is important to keep an open mind when trying new techniques.
I don't really have any specific rituals. One thing though is I make sure that I'm not, I'm very careful about what I eat and drink that day. So no caffeine, of course. Kind of a light meal, but I don't want to eat a lot that day, at least not until after. And then I might eat a lot after that. But yeah, so making sure I'm having like a salad or something like that before. Walking around in the shoes I'm gonna wear is big, especially because I will like sway a lot on stage or do like a lot of one-footed things. I want to make sure that I'm like comfortable in the heels that I'm wearing. Yeah, jumping jacks.
You're gonna get sick of me saying this, but the breathing thing, yeah, that is like literally the biggest thing. Like it just, like I said, resets everything. I'm not a super religious person, but sometimes, like not sometimes, pretty much every time I have like a performance, I'll say the Serenity Prayer. I'm not super religious. I just grew up saying that, and it just kind of gets me in the mindset. I don't know. So
I think it depends. I put lotion on. I don't know if that's like an anxious thing. More so, I need my hands to feel gritty. So I'm like, if I don't put lotion on, I know that it won't be a good performance. Like, my hands will be too dry. Or like, I don't know, I like to use the bathroom. I like to like drink water before. Those are like things that I have to do before I perform.
My pre-performance thing, one of my things is just kind of getting more into the character rather than the music. And another thing that I do is I practice breathing. I know it sounds a little weird, but like sometimes, at least in my experience, when I'm anxious, I can breathe a little bit weird. So like I might breathe up instead of down, or I might breathe shallow instead of deep, or sometimes I might not release my breath before I take a new breath. There's just certain stuff that I do. So sometimes I just take a few deep breaths, a few proper singing deep breaths before I sing, and just think about the character. That's usually what I do before I sing.
It can change from performance to performance, especially depending what kind of performance it is. But I usually try to go through the performance in my head to kind of figure out like what is going to be expected, and maybe go through the worst case scenario of what could possibly happen to kind of be like, yeah, this is the worst thing that can happen. It's really not that bad. But that's like the main thing, other than like listening to some music or kind of relaxing myself and having time to myself to look at the music, kind of go through everything and just kind of ground myself before I get out there.
Some musicians have developed pre-performance rituals or routines to both mentally and physically prepare them for their performances. Breathing exercises were among the most cited rituals. One participant described using slow and deep breathing exercises during moments of anxiety to reset their heart rate and clear their mind. Another emphasized deep breathing to calm shakiness and nerves, highlighting it as a physical grounding mechanism. One particularly structured technique mentioned was box breathing, where you inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, used while lying on the floor to reduce heart rate and calm the body before a performance. Several participants shared that their rituals are rooted in their faith. One said, "I'm religious, so I make a prayer to God that the message I'm trying to communicate comes across to the audience." Another described using a repetitive prayer that functions similarly to meditation, claiming it gives me something for my mind to come back to when it strays to nervous things. Some musicians described how their physical environment and movements play a role in preparing their body and mind. One wrote that they like to walk slowly across places the day of a performance to keep their heart rate low. Another emphasized hydration and comfort rituals, such as drinking warm drinks and lots of fluids, to regulate body temperature and avoid a dry throat. Across the responses, there is a strong trend toward intentional, mindful preparation before performance, whether through breath work, prayer, visualization, or quiet physical rituals. These pre-performance routines reflect both individual personalities and universal strategies for emotional regulation. They also point to a broader awareness among musicians that performance anxiety isn't necessarily something to eliminate, but rather something to prepare for and move through with care.
Yeah. So I try, when I'm practicing, I try to put myself in as close to the real situation that I'm going to be. So like I will, as I get closer, I will practice in front of my friends. And what's more is I will perform in front of my friends, because really they're some of the people that I'm most worried about. Like, I know that my friends want to see me do well, but of course everybody's like internally also judging what they think your performance should sound like. And so if I can start playing in front of them early, then I already know what they're gonna think, and I know what, they're gonna give me like things that they think can help it go better. So that's one thing that I really like to do, is performing in front of my friends. That helps. Full run-throughs. Last night I screamed into a pillow. because I wasn't able to get a full run through of a piece that I really wanted to. And I think these are just things that have to happen sometimes. Like, you just have to let off a little bit of steam and come back to it as like clear a mind as you can, because like the negativity isn't gonna help you, and you can't do that during a performance. So well, I think there are some pieces where you can like throw a chair. So I think there's like a trombone piece where you get to do that or something. I wish I could do that. But yeah, exposing yourself to playing in front of people is the best thing that's helped me. That's scary.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, yes. The breathing thing, and also I have a tendency to rush a lot when I'm performing with, under pressure, I guess, and feeling anxiety. So what I do in the practice room is I will play like faster runs that I rush under pressure. I'll play those slowly with a metronome. I'll get them super clean under my fingers. Yeah, it's definitely changed my mindset in the practice room. Like, I know what to work on now. Like, before I kind of just learn the piece, learn the notes, even learn the phrasing, but being able to perform under pressure is like, the biggest, feat for a musician. That's like, the biggest thing, because we all have to do it. It's a requirement if we want to make it out there. So just practicing, being confident enough, or getting those phrases, those difficult parts down solid, and being able to be confident playing it under stress. Yeah, that's changed my practicing, definitely. Yeah.
I perform in front of my friends. Like, I ask them to listen to parts, and I play, or I call my mom sometimes and she'll listen. Just play in front of people more.
When I'm practicing, sometimes some practice sessions I'm just like, if I was to sing this for my grandma or my mom, they would like it. If I was to sing it for, one of my friends, they'll be like, oh, okay, I didn't notice a mistake. I just kind of think from I'm singing this for kids, I'm singing this for families, what would they think? Sometimes it's easy to think from the perspective I'm about to go on my lesson, my teacher's about to chew me up. But because I realized that getting distracted by those little things can really take away from my performance, I try to take it back a little bit and really focus on who I'm really singing to. And not everybody's gonna know the word for word translation for my French piece, and I just have to remember that and be kind to myself.
Definitely. I remember one of my teachers, actually was a guest artist, said you should try to do some exercise, so run a lap around or do some jumping jacks and then play, and I would kind of simulate it. So when I've been practicing, I've done some random jumping jacks or some really weird cardio in just the practice room, and then I try to play a really difficult passage or something like that to kind of get to feel what it would feel like if I do suddenly start panicking on stage, because it's a lot of the same physical symptoms that you get as exercising and when you're panicking. So I was like, I'll do that, and it's worked out pretty well to kind of give a simulation of sorts.
When exploring the relationships between performance anxiety and practice habits, a range of insightful and personal responses were collected. Several respondents emphasized that increased exposure to performance situations was a key strategy in overcoming performance anxiety. One respondent noted, "The more I practice performing, the easier the situations become," while another explained, "Personally, I have pushed myself to perform as often as possible to get more comfortable with it." One of the most detailed responses described a structured approach informed by the bulletproof musician. The individual explained that their practice now includes mental planning, physical execution, and daily performance runs, saying, quote, "Including performance in my daily practice is kind of exposure therapy." A few participants discussed the psychological strategies they use to manage anxiety. One said, "I tell myself that anxiety means I care about my craft, and that helps me accept it." This reframing approach demonstrates how emotional awareness and positive reinforcement can be powerful tools in managing anxiety. Overall, the survey responses revealed that performance anxiety significantly influences how musicians practiced, from increased motivation and structured routines to mindset shifts and exposure-based learning. While the emotional and physical toll is real, many musicians are actively finding ways to transform their anxiety into a tool for improvement.
My undergrad teacher would just be like really real with me and be like, yeah, you're nervous. Are you going to die? And I would sit there and be like, yeah. She'd be like, no, you're not going to die. So like, that's step one, is knowing that no matter how bad you play, the worst outcome is that you drop dead on stage, and that's not gonna happen. Just knowing that like, life is going to go on, and that you are always your own worst critic. Comparison is the thief of joy. And you are the one that's been with you your whole life, and you're the one that knows how you play. The only thing is that, like, be as prepared as you can and just try and be happy for yourself. Because that's really all you can do. You can't control things once you're in there.
The advice I would give is the only way to overcome it is to just do it. I would also tell them to breathe. I would give them my breathing exercises. I would show them my breathing strategies. But I found that now that's my junior year, I've been doing this as my third year doing all of this stuff. I found that I'm significantly less stressed performing and auditioning and, doing things, playing wherever. I can trust myself to perform now. It's not without anxiety. I definitely have it, but I can perform knowing that I'm able to cope with it and able to play through it. But it's taken a while for me to get here. I've definitely been through auditions where I was shaking beyond belief, and I couldn't get a good breath, and so I was breathing all over the place and messing everything up. So yeah, my biggest advice is to just perform as much as you can and get those nerves, I don't want to say out of the way, but learn how to play with the nerves. So
I think my professor, Gary, recently this year, he has been very adamant about teaching me how to meditate and just do nothing. For 3 minutes before you play, don't lift your instrument, don't do anything. Then don't even think about what you played. Sit down for 2 to 3 minutes and then do nothing and then go back to what you're doing, because I think a lot of anxiety is just a lot of things going on in our heads, and we don't realize that so many things are going on, and it's okay to turn it off, especially when you're playing. You should just be thinking about the music and just how you want it to sound. That's pretty much it, not everything else.
So my first bit of advice would be, even if you think you did something wrong or poorly, make a manual conscious effort to say, I did good. Take the time to pat yourself on the back and lift yourself up. And when you're not performing in that performance space, the before, during, or after, when you're in your private time developing your crafts, just be kind to yourself and help build your confidence. Because I feel like if you're a confident individual, even if you mess up, it'll still sound amazing.
So I would say just talk about it. It's the most uncomfortable thing to do, but I never really thought that my professors or professional musicians experienced it until I said something and they were like, oh yeah, we deal with that all the time. And it's oh, so almost everyone's experiencing this and dealing with this. And then just talking about it, you kind of explain what you do and they give advice on what they do, and you find different things and you eventually try them all and see what works for you. So it's kind of just shouldn't be a secret. Even if you're dealing with it and you're I'm dealing with this thing, everyone experiences it.
A strong majority of participants emphasize the importance of exposure to practice situations. Phrases like practice performing and play in front of as many people as possible as many times as possible appeared repeatedly. One respondent described how performing parts of their master's recital each week for their studio significantly reduced nerves on the actual day, saying, "By the time my recital day finally came, I'd performed the pieces so many times that this just felt like yet another run." Mock performances were also encouraged as a practical way to simulate pressure and reduce unpredictability. Other respondents pointed to slow, deep breathing as a core strategy. One participant wrote, "I would always suggest slow, deep breathing exercises." Others described how breathwork helps manage physiological responses like rapid heart rate and tension, especially when paired with performance repetition. This advice consistently framed breathing as an accessible and reliable tool that works in both practice and real-time performance settings. Several participants offered advice rooted in reframing performance anxiety through a different lens. A particularly impactful reflection came from a peer's comment, "Wow, it must be awesome to give a recital with all the people in the room being there who want you to succeed." This shift from fear of judgment to embracing support resonated deeply with the respondent and helped reshape their mental outlook on performing. One participant recommended using a practice journal and adopting a deliberate practice method, saying, "Treat practice like a formula to achieve a certain outcome. Put all your trust in that formula." For those with anxiety, this resilience on an external structure can help ease internal doubt and create a sense of control. This advice highlights how preparation systems and self-discipline can reduce mental uncertainty. Another common thread was the importance of acceptance rather than eliminating nervousness. One musician put it clearly, "Performance anxiety will never go away. Practice being nervous. Don't try not to be nervous." Instead of avoiding discomfort, participants advocated becoming familiar with one's own nervous patterns and building rituals to respond to them. Finally, some respondents shared more introspective advice. One said, "Ask yourself how you can be your own support system." This advice encourages self-reliance, but also acknowledges that building that foundation might include asking for help along the way. It reflects a deeper personal journey toward resilience and emotional growth. Whether through strategic exposure, breath control, mindset shifts, structured practice, or emotional acceptance, each piece of guidance reflects real-world experience and empathy. Collectively, the responses convey an important message. You are not alone.
I just keep thinking, like, this is probably a thing that won't ever completely go away. But I will say that from the time I started performing freshman year of college to now, it has gotten a lot easier. Like, I've gone from taking beta blockers practically every performance to I'm only going to take them if I have like a solo recital. I don't even use them for studio recitals anymore or anything like that. So I'm hoping that someday I can get to a point where I'm like, chill. Mm-hmm. But if I don't, that's okay. And there's some beauty to, like, you know, being nervous for this thing that you care so much about, because it shows that it matters to you how you play.